You're watching the Slice Tower Hamlets election coverage ahead of the general election on the 4th of July. Rabina Khan is the Liberal Democrat candidate for Bethnal Green and Stepney, and she joins us now. Rabina Khan, why are you running for office?
I'm running for office for Bethnal Green and Stepney. It's a brand new constituency, and I think the Bethnal Green and Stepney deserve a local champion, someone who's accessible, someone who lives here, knows the area. My children went to local schools. I've lived here over 30 years. I've been a councillor for 12 years in one of the wards that is now part of the new constituency. I'm accessible. And I'm hardworking, and I truly want to represent the interests of all our communities from Bethnal and Stepney, whether they're facing the cost of living or they live in overcrowded situation or on international issues on Gaza, to the leasehold system being abolished, to people facing sanctions when receiving universal credit, but standing for the interests of all our communities, from local businesses to climate change inclusivity. I'm here for every community.
And what do you recognise to be the most pertinent issues specifically facing Bethnal Green and Stepney?
Well, I think on an international level, there is a huge outrage because there is a predominantly Muslim community here over the Gaza issue. The Liberal Democrats have been absolutely clear. We voted for the ceasefire in November 2023, and we voted for it again in February 2024. We tabled a bilateral motion in which to ensure that we could get aid in, hostages out, and to work towards a two-state solution. Our first and only British Palestinian MP is from the Liberal Democrats, and she has since 2017 tabled a motion to recognise the state of Palestine. And she's said often that without the UK recognising Palestine as an independent state, we can't work towards a two-state solution. So that's a key factor as well. Refugee crisis has been a big issue. I had a big meeting with London citizens yesterday and speaking about some of their manifesto pledges. We've been always a warm and welcoming community here. So when John Ashworth and the incoming PM, Sir Keir Starmer, mentions the Bangladeshi community in their discussion about immigration, that is unforgivable for singling out the Bangladeshi community. And they didn't do it once, they did it twice. It's both divisive and it's hurtful not to recognise what we have been able to do from the Bangladeshi community. So those are the critical things, but the cost of living, housing and poor health, mental health issue and climate change have been big factors. And I say the cost of living because universal credit has a huge impact on people who are often sanctioned and don't have access to money that's coming in. So the Liberal Democrats are going to reverse the £20 cut, but also abolish that sanction regime and look for a fairer way to enable and empower people. Young people, for example, mental health issue has been a key factor, particularly where COVID hit communities like where in Tower Hamlets, where 1 in 3 children live in poverty. So we're hoping and working towards to making sure that we have mental health advocates in schools where young people can access that, and working towards to 8,000 GPs in the NHS.
Yes. You mentioned Keir Starmer's comment on Monday in a debate held by The Sun newspaper, where he singled out Bangladesh as a country where illegal migrants are not being returned to. If you were in his position, how would you answer that question about the coping with asylum seekers in the UK and the backlog of asylum seekers? What would you do with that situation?
With that situation, it's very simple. You run an open and transparent and a system of immigration that is fair to all, and you most certainly do not single out one single community. So that's the first thing. Those are just two critical things that any leader or any MP or any politician should know. When you speak about immigration, immigration is often used to divide and pit communities against each other. Why would you go down that line of pitting one community in front of another community? It's wrong, it's unforgivable, and Sir Keir Starmer should apologise. And on that, they didn't just say it once, they actually mentioned it twice. And this was the debate around boats. The people coming in from the boats now from Calais. They're not from Bangladesh. In fact, Bangladeshi asylum seekers are a lot lower on that list of countries that they are coming from. So, as a leader, what he didn't do was to make sure that he was amicable, he was equal, he was open, he was transparent. He understood that not to pit. He should have understood not to pit communities against each other in the rhetoric and debate about immigration.
Yeah, and you say this idea of communities being pitted against each other, and obviously in our borough, you mentioned Israel Gaza. That has been a particularly contentious topic that has divided our borough, and we've seen in Bethnal Green and Stepney there's a concerted campaign by a pro-Palestinian independent candidate, Ajmal Masroor, to get rid of Labour's Roshana Ali based on her decision about a ceasefire. If you were elected MP, how would you unite this fractured borough where passions are running high and there's a lot of ridicule and hatred being spread online directed towards particularly Roshana Ali?
So I have been I campaigned outside a mosque, and a young man approached me and began recording me, and I made sure that I answered the questions, and I was going to answer the questions. He did say to me, "You do know that I'm recording." I said, "Fine, you can record, but let's move away from the entrance of the mosque. You're asking me about the ceasefire. I will provide you with our party stance, but ask it in a respectful and acceptable manner, in which way that candidates have the right to stand in any fair and free elections, and people have the right to ask questions as well." So for me, it's about making sure that we have open and comfortable communication with all our young people, with all our communities, and making sure people feel valued, feel respected, and opening those channels of discussion. Now, for myself, I covered the Gaza war as a journalist for Yahoo News between October and December, and we wanted to make sure we had a balance of views on display. So opinion pieces. So we had one piece from Layla Moran, and we had a really lovely piece from another Jewish member who lives actually in Bethnal Green and Stepney. And so it's about making sure both communities are represented and we can work together. But also we have got to remember it's people like if Sir Keir Starmer and John Ashworth have singled out the Bangladeshi community, that's not bringing people together. That's not uniting people. That's actually singling out people. And we shouldn't be going down that line. We should also, while you have mentioned about international issues, there are other things that are affecting people. The cost of living, the fact that there are a huge number of carers in the borough. We're going to increase from the Liberal Democrats the carers allowance. We're going to get rid of the two-child policy. We're also going to look at universal credit, as I said, and on immigration, we're going to reverse the decision, which was the threshold of £18,000, which had got increased to almost £39,000 for any spouse or dependent to come to this country. We're going to increase our investment in green technology. We're committed to climate change. And I would say, just to add, Imogen, climate change matters to me because I come from a community that has been disproportionately impacted by climate change. Bangladesh is at risk continuously. As we speak now, it's facing a huge heat wave. People have passed away due to the heat. So for these communities, it matters that we get on top of climate change. And I'd really like to work in Bethnal Green and Stepney to make sure that we have a more inclusive climate change agenda.
Well, on climate change, the contentious topic of low traffic neighbourhoods has in the past divided our borough as well. And you've said in the past that you feel that ethnic minorities are often excluded from the climate change debate and that discourse. How will you make talk about the climate more inclusive and relevant to everyone living here, not just white middle class constituents?
Well, first of all, the climate change campaigners here, I'd like to work with them so that we can bring these communities together and talk about it. So someone who is well off and lives in a house may be able to access recycling, may be able to access other different resources to be part of that climate change agenda. But a mum who lives in an overcrowded situation on the top floor, the 12th floor of a overcrowded flat, it doesn't have the facility to recycle all the time. Imagine having 4 children. There's a tiny 1 bedroom flat and you're overcrowded and you're trying to manage all the things that you want to recycle, but you don't have that facility. You want to teach your children cycling. You buy them a bike and then later on the bike gets stolen because you don't have a place to store it in. The more we have this discussion, it would be really helpful. And I think my hope as an MP, and I really mean it to all the climate change activists listening, please, let's work together so that we can have a more inclusive discussion about climate change and enable communities who have been forgotten in that agenda, who don't have access. And I remember once I attended a hustings, there was only 3 or 4 people from a Black or marginalised community there, and yet it's particularly that it's that community that gets impacted on both locally, nationally and internationally. So for climate change, I would really like to work and make it more inclusive, enable people so that they can be part of that process of recycling or being able to have that accessibility and see what we can do.
And I want to talk a bit more about yourself and your own political journey. When it comes to your politics, in 2010, you were a Labour councillor for Shadwell. After that, you were an independent councillor. In 2016, you formed a minor party, the People's Alliance of Tower Hamlets. You joined the Lib Dems in 2018. After all your time in politics, why are the Lib Dems the party for you?
Yeah, so let's start from 2010. So I actually won Shadwell, which was predominantly usually men won it, and I think the first woman in 20 years to get it back for Labour, and I feel very proud of that. I was expecting at the time, and at the time I resigned from the party because I felt that Lutfur Rahman, who is the current mayor, had unfairly and unjustly been treated and deselected. And I stood on the ground of principle. I didn't go because there was an opportunity for me, but I actually left the Labour Party on my own principles. And when I formed my own party later, that just shows the courage I was able to do this as a woman. I joined the Liberal Democrats in 2018, not out of opportunity, because I think at the time they were 4% in the polls. 2015, they'd had such a battering at the elections. In 2017, there were, I think, about 8 or 11 MPs from the Liberal Democrats. So it wasn't a great time to join, but I joined because they were the only party that was clear on Remain. I am a Remainer, have always been. I believe that remaining in Europe was important, and so that's why I chose the party of the Liberal Democrats. And I have realised that I've really enjoyed working with the local party. I've been a special advisor and worked for Lord Newby in the House of Lords, and I've chosen this party because I can see that I can bring influence and my voice can be heard and show another side of minority communities and marginalised communities. We can see that because if you look at the manifesto policies, they're very left-leaning. So you've got the 8,000 GPs, you've got the universal credit, the carers allowed. Sir Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, his own personal story of being someone who lost their parents at a very young age, then becoming a carer to his very severely disabled son, shows that he puts ordinary people's concerns at the heart of what we do. Leaseholders, we're the party very clear that we will abolish the leasehold system. It's not working. Young people are being priced out. Renting is high. We're going to ban evictions. So it's that kind of important thing for us, standing up for people.
So, but, obviously a lot of people will see this general election as a 2-horse race between Labour and the Conservatives. What's the point in voting Lib Dem if they don't stand a chance of winning nationally?
Imogen, this is a 2-horse race between the Liberal Democrats and the Labour Party, not the Conservative Party. We can see it now, how the Conservative Party has completely dropped. And you will see it now. Today I've seen that 15%. Britain Elect shows that the Liberal Democrats are on 15%. And they've not dropped, it's just going up. I reckon that it will keep going up. So this is a 2-horse race between Labour and the Liberal Democrats. In certain polls now, it's shown that we are coming second. And we believe the difference here is that people are realising that a party has moved on, done the things that it should have done, which is supporting the communities, making sure we have MPs that are local champions, championing the communities that have elected them. we represent parties, but it is the community and the voters who elect an MP. So at the core of this, I'd like to be a constituency MP, yes, and be a parliamentary MP, but communities matter to me and their concerns. And I'd like to be at the heart of our communities, representing their interests.
And when it comes to what's going on in Israel Gaza, a lot of people in our community are calling on their politicians to, advocate for withholding arms sales towards Israel. You've said that the Liberal Democrats were one of the first UK-wide parties to call for an immediate bilateral ceasefire, but if they came into power, would the Lib Dems withhold arms sales towards Israel?
So that's one of our callings as well, Imogen. So we would not be selling, and we would be halting sales weapons to Israel, the sale of such weapons. We've also in the past called on two of Netanyahu's ministers to be sanctioned. Alistair Carmichael has also called on, our MP, Liberal Democrat MP, has also called on one of the ministers, obviously they're candidates now, all of them, but to stop importing goods from illegal settlements in Palestine. So it's really really important to look at this.
Finally, I want to ask you, there's a lot in the Liberal Democrat manifesto about welfare and allowances for carers. They plan to remove the 2-child limit, as well as the benefit cap, and they want to increase the carers allowance by £20 a week. I want to ask, are all of these policies costed? What would you say to voters who are worried that their tax bill is going to increase?
So to all of the people watching this, that we are here to represent all our communities. Many people are facing the cost of living. We are going to be taxing the super rich. We're going to go after people who have not paid their tax. So tax avoidance is a huge amounts of millions and millions of money in tax avoidance. We're going to go after that. Bankers as well. We've got to make sure that we represent our communities, all our communities, and make sure that it's fully costed, including our NHS. The Royal London Hospital, across the country, we need 8,000 GPs, and so it is fully costed, and it's on the manifesto pledges as well. And I think most people who are the super rich, who need to pay the taxes, and those who have avoided tax should pay out and make sure everybody is supported in a community, because when you have a thriving community, you have an aspiring society, you are enabling young people, you are looking after our older people. We are making sure our communities are safer. We are building the homes that we need. To 150,000 council homes annual is what we have costed. We also want to make sure our treasured NHS is looked after, rebuilt, and making sure that we're here for all.
And finally, just on a more light-hearted note, you are an author yourself. You wrote My Hair's Pink Under This Veil in 2022. I want to ask you, what book have you read recently that you would recommend and why?
Oh gosh, I'm doing a master's in creative writing at Birkbeck University, and I've read a number of books, and I just the book that stands out to me is My Sister, the Serial Killer. Really enjoyed it. I read it and I was thinking I read it in one go, and it was like, wow, this is so super good. And I should read it. My by the way, Imogen, My Hair is Pink Under This Veil. The reason I had that title is because I did this hustings once, and a gentleman came up to me and said, "Oh, what colour's your hair under your veil?" And I looked at him and I thought, okay, it's pink. And he said, "Oh, really?" So I said it was green afterwards. And then I didn't ask him what colour his hair was before he went bald. So I love writing. I'm written for the Financial Times, the Independent, the Guardian, and I really like to tell stories of people, their life stories, their stories, things that often people don't talk about. And the masters that I'm doing, I'm really pleased to say, one of the short stories that I wrote, I actually got a huge distinction for it, so I'm so pleased with that. And so, yeah, it's a part-time course. Any writers out there, get in contact with me. I love reading books and sharing notes about my creative writing.
Brilliant. So, thank you. Rubina Khan, Lib Dem candidate for Bethnal Green and Stepney.